It's 7:30 p.m. across India, live from New Delhi. You're watching DDI India Global. We'll get you top stories from India and the region. I am Tanvi Taneja, and for news from the rest of the world, I'm joined by my colleague in Washington, D.C., Nick Harper. Nick, good evening from New Delhi.
Good morning, Tanvi. It's 10 a.m. here in Washington, D.C. It's 3 in the afternoon across Central Europe. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, NATO looks to bolster security for Ukraine, and Beijing hits back at Washington over Taiwan support. But first, the headlines.
Hamas delegation in Cairo for Gaza ceasefire talks. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken urges Hamas to swiftly accept Israel's, quote, extraordinarily generous proposal for a truce. Ukraine Zelensky urges the U.S. to speed up weapons deliveries. NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg, on an unannounced visit to Kiev, says arms flows to Ukraine will increase.
We are working hard to meet Ukraine's urgent needs. And I have been clear that if allies face a choice between meeting NATO capability targets or supporting Ukraine, they should support Ukraine.
China hints at retaliation after US President Joe Biden signs legislation to boost Taiwan's defenses and to get TikTok's Chinese owner to divest from the social media platform. And G7 holds climate talks in Italy to firm up a target date for phasing out coal from power generation. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has urged Hamas to quickly reach a decision on Israel's conditions for a temporary ceasefire, a move that could help bring an end to the conflict in Gaza. At a special event of the World Economic Forum in Riyadh on Monday, Antony Blinken said Israel has been extraordinarily generous with its proposals made during the mediated talks to secure the release of Israeli hostages.
Hamas has before it a proposal that is extraordinarily generous on the part of Israel. And in this moment, the only thing standing between the people of Gaza and a ceasefire is Hamas. They have to decide, and they have to decide quickly. So we're looking to that, and I'm hopeful that they will make the right decision.
Meanwhile, a delegation from Hamas is in Cairo for a new round of talks with the Egyptian and Qatari mediators and to provide a response on Israel's proposal on hostage release. DD India's Sarah Coates sent us this report from Tel Aviv.
Well, the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is meeting with senior Saudi officials in Riyadh, as well as representatives from a number of other Gulf nations, to try and find the right mix of who should lead a revitalised Palestinian Authority and be in charge of Gaza after the war. Now, this comes as negotiations over a ceasefire and hostage release deal are ongoing in Cairo. We do know that a Hamas delegation is on the ground. They've had a proposal in front of them now for the last few days. Now, according to an unnamed senior Hamas official, there are no major issues with this latest proposal, with the official adding that the atmosphere is positive unless there are new Israeli obstacles. Now, it is important to say that both Israel and Hamas are under considerable pressure to come to some sort of an agreement. Israel has issued Hamas with an ultimatum saying that this will be the last proposal that is offered, and if the group does not agree to it, then this operation down in the southern Gazan city of Rafah will happen. Meanwhile, Israel is reportedly willing to make a few major concessions, these being the release of some 33 hostages rather than 40 as originally demanded. Also, the evacuation of Israeli forces from a corridor which separates the north and the south of the Gaza Strip, and also finally allowing people to return to their homes in the northern part of the Strip, including men of fighting age. Now, we did hear from the Secretary of State Blinken. He is urging Hamas to take the deal, saying that this is an extraordinarily generous offer and Hamas better decide quickly. Sarah Coates in Tel Aviv reporting for DD India.
Earlier in the day, the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC, called for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza at the opening of a US GCC meeting in Riyadh today. The GCC further called for ensuring access to all humanitarian and relief assistance and basic needs of Gaza residents.
We reaffirm the position of the Gulf Cooperation Council, calling for an immediate and sustainable ceasefire and the cessation of Israeli military operations throughout Gaza, including Rafah, and ensuring access to all humanitarian and relief assistance and the basic needs of Gaza residents.
Speaking at this meeting, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the most effective way to tackle humanitarian crisis is to reach a ceasefire.
We have seen measurable progress in the last few weeks, including the opening of new crossings, increased volume of aid delivery to Gaza and within Gaza, and the building of the U.S. Maritime Corridor, which will open in the coming weeks. But it is not enough. The most effective way to address the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is to alleviate the suffering of children, women, and men, and to create space for a more just and durable solution is to get the ceasefire and the hostages home.
US Secretary of State Antony Blinken met Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud in Riyadh today to discuss post-conflict governance of Gaza. On to the other conflict between Russia and Ukraine. As the frontline situation worsens, Kiev is desperately awaiting US weapons supplies and urging all for more air defenses. My colleague Nick Harper is in Washington, D.C. He gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Nick, Kiev's partners trying hard now to speed up deliveries, weapons deliveries?
That's right, Tanvi. Yes, NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg has met Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kiev this Monday. In a joint press conference, Zelensky said the process of moving vital US weapons to Ukraine needs to be faster.
Timely support of our army. Today I don't see anything positive on this point yet. There are supplies, they have slightly begun. This process needs to be speed up. And the third and most important point is that it is one question, whether there is money. This is very important and we are thankful to our partners. But it is very important what we receive for this money.
Meanwhile, Stoltenberg said they're working hard to meet Ukraine's needs and other allies are also looking into what more they can do.
Other allies are looking into what more they can do, and I expect new announcements soon. So we are working hard to meet Ukraine's urgent needs. And I have been clear that if allies face a choice between meeting NATO capability targets or supporting Ukraine, they should support Ukraine. So now our responsibility is to ensure that these announcements are turned into real deliveries, physical deliveries of weapons and ammunition as soon as possible.
Russia has said its forces have taken control of Semivka, a village in Ukraine's Donetsk region, on Monday after a series of recent territorial gains. Earlier on Sunday, the Russian Defence Ministry had announced the capture of another village, which had been the focal point of fighting in recent days. Well, to help us unpack all of this, we've got DD India's Dasha Chernyshova joining us live from Moscow. Dasha, first of all, how is Russia assessing the situation on the ground, considering the Western aid and Stoltenberg's visit to Kiev?
Well, what we have heard from the Kremlin is the certainty that the so-called special military operation in Ukraine will succeed. And the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov most recently made his comments saying that Russia does have the upper hand on the battlefront, and this momentum has to be only strengthened. We also have heard from the Russian authorities that the supplies of Western ammunition and weapons to Ukraine will only extend the conflict, while Russia will continue to target the warehouses where this ammunition is stored with a high precision weapons. And obviously the rhetoric we are getting from Moscow suggests that Moscow is willing to continue fighting as long as it takes to make sure the goals of the operation are achieved, with Moscow also insisting that the Western countries do not really care about the fate of the Ukrainian people, while caring only about inflicting the so-called strategic defeat over Russia. That's why Moscow says it cannot afford to stop fighting, and it will continue with its operation by the military means, while the possibility and the grounds for the negotiated solutions are not there yet, even though Moscow insists it is open should Ukraine be ready for those talks.
And Dasha, we've heard from the Russian ministry over the course of the last few days talking about territorial gains that have been made by Russia. What more do we know about that?
That's right. We've heard that the Russian Ministry of Defense confirmed the capture of Semyonovka, or the liberation of Semyonovka, as the Russian MOD describes it. Before that, there was the conversation about the capture of Novobakhmutovka by the Russian armed forces. This is all in the Donetsk People's Republic, and we understand that Moscow will continue this process looking forward. In the meantime, what we are seeing is that the Russian military are trying to destroy as much of the supplies of the Western weapons as possible. That's why they are carrying strikes with the high precision weapons against the military warehouses where those weapons are located. But also Russia is targeting the energy infrastructure of Ukraine, and most recently Moscow has embarked on that, saying that was in retaliation against the Ukrainian strikes over the Russian energy infrastructure. But Moscow insists that they were waiting until it is warm enough not to create much damage for the civilian population, insisting at the same time that Moscow is targeting only the military industrial complex of Ukraine. But we understand that as this conflict proceeds and continues, Moscow will continue to target the military goals as well as the energy infrastructure of Ukraine, because Moscow does say that supplies to Ukraine, Kiev would have been at the negotiated table with Russia long before.
Thank you, Dasha. That was Dasha Chernyshova joining us live from Moscow. Well, moving on, China on Monday has hinted at retaliation after US President Joe Biden signed into law the legislation to boost Taiwan's defences, as well as Washington's approval to try and get TikTok's Chinese owner to divest from the social media platform. Beijing has urged the US to refrain from implementing what they call negative China-related aspects of the law. President Joe Biden signed a bill tied to the aid legislation that bans TikTok in the United States if its Chinese owner ByteDance fails to divest the app over the course of the next year. Well, to Spain now, where the Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez, has announced that he will continue to serve as the country's leader. His decision comes days after the Spanish leader abruptly announced that he was considering resigning from office. That after a Madrid court opened a probe into allegations of influence peddling and corruption by his wife, Begoña Gomez. Spanish Prime Minister has reiterated his wife's innocence, and he's accused opposition leaders of spreading misinformation against his wife.
I have decided to continue as Prime Minister, to go on, if possible even stronger, as the Prime Minister of Spain's government. This decision doesn't mean business as usual. Things are going to be different, and I can guarantee that. That is why I assume in front of you my commitment to work without rest, firmly and with serenity, for the pending regeneration of our democracy, as well as for the progress and to consolidate rights and freedoms. I assume the decision to lead the Spanish government with even greater strength.
A two-day G7 ministers meeting on climate, energy and environment is underway in the Italian city of Turin. Italy, which heads the G7 rotating presidency this year, is pushing for an agreement among the group of 7 wealthy nations to set a target date for the phase-out of coal in power generation. An agreement on this would be a step closer to the goals decided by the COP28 United Nations Climate Summit in Dubai last year. And of course all of that as the world has been experiencing intense weather conditions during recent weeks. Heat waves, floods and hailstorms have all created havoc globally. Here's a look at how Southeast Asia is coping with the adverse weather conditions.
From heat waves to devastating floods, the world is in the grip of extreme weather conditions. In India, strong heat waves are wreaking havoc in several regions, prompting warnings from the weather department to brace for a hot and humid summer.
Means unbearable, simply unbearable. This heat we have not witnessed this last 50 years or something. This is tremendous, scorching heat and unbearable. What else I could say?
Bangladesh is also feeling the heat, with record-breaking temperatures leading to the closure of primary schools and educational institutions in many districts, including the capital Dhaka.
I have never experienced such heat in my life. Yes, summers would be hot, but there would have been gusts of winds and rain. But it's not happening this time. People are suffering a lot.
Philippines has also shut schools and warned of overloading on its power grid, as authorities across Southeast Asia have issued a series of health alerts arising from a deadly heat wave in the nation. Extreme weather fluctuations aren't limited to just a few countries. Indonesia, Malaysia, Japan and Singapore are also grappling with scorching temperatures, prompting urgent warnings from weather departments. Meanwhile, in Kenya's Mai Mahiu region, at least 42 people have lost their lives in floods caused by a burst dam, with authorities fearing casualties may further rise.
I have lost my 5 relatives, my mother, my cousin, my 2 nephews and a neighbor who came to seek refuge here.
Across the border in China, nature's fury is on a full display, with a heavy hailstorm hitting Fuzhou, snow covering parts of Hebei province and a deadly tornado tearing through Guangzhou. Rising global temperatures are making extreme weather events like floods and heat waves more frequent and more intense, with catastrophic effects on people's lives around the world. Amish Mahajan reporting for DD India.
In Washington, Tanvi, handing it back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much, Nick. Nick Harper joining us from Washington, D.C. You're watching DD India Global, still to come on the show. Campaigning for India's third phase of election begins. BJP's Narendra Modi reiterates his party's commitment to make the state and the country developed at a rally in Karnataka's Bagalkot. And UK's Prince William and Kate Middleton celebrate their 13th wedding anniversary today.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Global. I am Tanvi Taneja. We now get you the latest on the world's largest democratic elections underway in India. So campaigning for the third phase of India's elections picks up. Polling will be held in 93 seats on May the 7th. After holding a rally in Karnataka, Prime Minister Narendra Modi held another rally in Maharashtra's Solapur. The Prime Minister said that the opposition Congress party never believed in choosing leaders from the backward community. But the ruling BJP, Bharatiya Janata Party, has always tried to give a higher representation to the backward classes. The Prime Minister also held a rally in Maharashtra's Satara district. He said that the government fulfilled the guarantee of one rank, one pension and $12 billion was being given to former military personnel of the country. Further, senior BJP leader and Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed another rally in Karnataka's Bagalkot today. The Prime Minister spoke about the BJP's commitment to making the state and the country developed. 14 constituencies in Karnataka will go to polls in the third phase of election. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi addressed a rally in Gujarat's Patan today. 25 seats in the state will go to polls in the third phase of elections. He told the gathering that it's a fight between two ideologies. National Conference Chief Farooq Abdullah held a roadshow at Srinagar in Jammu and Kashmir today. Polling for the Srinagar constituency will be held in the fourth phase of elections on 13th of May. BJP leader and Defence Minister Rajat Singh filed his nomination from Lucknow in Utar Pradesh on Monday. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami and BJP's Uttar Pradesh President Bhupendra Chaudhary were present with him. BJP leader Smriti Irani filed her nomination from Uttar Pradesh's Amethi district. Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Mohan Yadav was present on the occasion. And DD India's Amritpal Singh joins us now from Firozabad in Uttar Pradesh. Amrit, in the third phase, 10 seats are going to polls in Uttar Pradesh. Give us a sense of the political landscape of the constituencies going to polls.
Well, the 10 constituencies going to the polls in the third phase, which poll on the 7th of May, are what is called the Braj area, where the Braj Bhasha is spoken of Uttar Pradesh. They include Mainpuri, Agra, Firozabad, Bareilly, Sambal, these constituencies, Hathras. Now, while two of them, the Agra and Hathras, are reserved constituencies, the rest 8 are general constituencies. To give you a political landscape, the BJP seems to be a dominant force here because in 2019 they won 8 out of the 10 seats. So they have 8 incumbent MPs from here. In 2014 it was a similar situation. The BJP had 7. The Samajwadi Party had 2. Mulayam Singh Yadav, if you remember, in 2019 had won the Mainpuri seat, which after his death, his daughter-in-law Dimple Yadav, who is also the wife of former Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav, won in a by-poll. She's again a contestant this time around. Against her is Jaivir Singh Thakur of the BJP. So that's an important constituency. Now, how these, to give you a sense of what the profile or of the voter really is when it comes to caste combinations. As you know, caste plays a very important role in North Indian politics per se, and Uttar Pradesh surely it is unlike the first and the second phase, which were Jat dominated, or we could call it the Jatland. This is really the Yadav land. Yadavs dominate this constituency, though there are other OBCs like Lodhs, Shakars, etc. Yadavs are a dominant force. The Muslims also, have a sizable presence in constituencies like Sambal, etc. Now, or even in Agra. So the Muslim Yadav combined, which is essentially the vote bank of the Samajwadi Party, which is a part of the India bloc. So it's really at most seats a fight between the BJP and the Samajwadi Party, while there is a three-way contest in some seats, a serious three-way contest in some seats where the BSP has also fielded its candidates. candidates. Though the BSP has fielded candidates on all seats, all the 10 constituencies, but still there are about 3 where there is a 3-way fight. So essentially in most of the constituencies it looks like a 2-cornered contest between the Samajwadi Party and the BJP. Tanvi.
Okay, Amrit, it is said that the road to Delhi goes through UP. Thank you very much. You are reporting from a very crucial state. Thank you for those updates. Moving on now, the International Monetary Fund has asked Bangladesh Bank to disclose detailed and complete information regarding bad and risky loans in public interest. A 10-member IMF delegation is in Dhaka to review the progress before the disbursement of the third installment of the $4.7 billion loan taken by Bangladesh to review the overall economic situation. The IMF team also made recommendations to Bangladesh for short and medium-term reforms in the next budget and called for fresh measures that would fetch more revenues in the financial year 2025. And next we take a look at what else is happening across the world. Kate Middleton and Prince William of the United Kingdom are celebrating their 13th wedding anniversary on Monday, while the Princess of Wales undergoes treatment for cancer. The royal couple are expected to have a private celebration due to Kate Middleton's health. Prince William wed his long-term partner, Kate Middleton, at the Westminster Abbey on this day in 2011. Following a period of refurbishment, Vietnam's Phong Nha Ke Bang National Park has reopened its Tian Son Cave and Va Cave, offering visitors fresh and exciting experiences. Tian Son Cave has undergone upgrades with the addition of a new mirror bridge. Meanwhile, Va Cave features underground lakes and thousands of unique columns. And staying with Vietnam, well, it's a sea tourism season in the Southeast Asian nation. It's a unique cultural, sports and tourism event of Vietnam's Da Nang city, one of Vietnam's boom towns. Da Nang is an attractive coastal city with superb beaches and one of the country's best museums. So with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India Global. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter and Instagram at DD India Live. For those on the go, you can catch all the latest news and updates on our DD India mobile app. You can scan the QR code on your screen to download now.